going into 2012, again, under extreme amounts of pressure, went to the Olympic Games. I fell on high bar in the team final, and my extreme kind of like personality and my black and white look on life, I've mentioned this before, but I couldn't compute how I'd won an Olympic medal and fell off. That didn't make sense in my head, and I felt that everybody else, if I'm feeling that in my head, all these people around me, they're not stupid. They know that, they're understanding that, they're thinking that, when they're smiling to me, but they're actually thinking you didn't deserve that. And so I kept this all in my head, and we started going out after the competitions, like after the Olympic Games, when everyone had finished. And we'd go out every single night, and these clubs would give us like 3 bottles of Ace of Spades champagne, and there'd be like girls and stuff, everything going on around me. And all I was doing, like at that point, because I felt so much pain inside me and this shame, and I was just drinking to make it go away. And I'd figured out, like, when I have a drink, I forget about all my worries and it all goes away. And that competition, actually, that was the big one. And this was a massive red flag. And, you know, I've been embarrassed about this for years and ashamed about it. And I can remember the night before this night, on my room of the Olympic Games in mine and Max's door, someone had put a picture up of a Belgium athlete that had got so drunk they'd basically wet himself and been sent home in disgrace. And they'd put that on the door and basically said, do not do this. So I've gone out that night, like, still got all of these feelings that I don't understand, because at 19 I'm not a well-rounded enough individual to handle 20,000 people watching me, millions of people on TV, the pressure, the feelings that I've got inside of me, these emotions. I don't know what's going on. And the only thing I've learned up to this point is to drink, and it all goes away. So we've gone out, I've got crazily drunk. Again, we're being fed alcohol and stuff. And they've taken me out the back door of this nightclub, this like big famous nightclub in London, been put in a taxi. They've taken me back. Again, I've ended up in a wheelchair. So at this point, I've now got the nickname Wheelchair Sam, which people laugh and joke about and like cheer on, which is really odd, you know. And no one had ever stopped to say, are you okay? Like, are you all right, Sam? And I remember having to go to the chef de mission. So the chef de mission is like the guy that is in charge of the whole team for the Olympic Games. I've been called to his office. And so I go in and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to be that lad from Belgium, and they're kicking me out of the Olympic Games, and I've disgraced my family, my country, my coach, British gymnastics. So I go into his office, and he's a guy that I'd known before. I'd met him when I was a kid, going to these Youth Olympic festivals. And he was a really nice guy, and he kind of took a liking to me. And I walked in and I thought, right, here we go, this is it. And he kind of looked at me and he smiled and he went, Sammy Oldham, come and sit down. And I thought, it's going to be okay. And he actually was the only person that ever, I think, stopped me. And he said, Sam, I was really worried about you. Like, you're really young and I didn't want to see you in that state. That wasn't okay, you know. Like, I want to make sure you're all right. Is everything okay? And I didn't know what to say to him because he was the big boss. So I kind of lied and said, look, Mark, I'm really sorry. Like, I don't normally drink. And I don't. It's true. Like, I was the professional athlete for 6 months to 9 months. I'd never have a drink. So he said, okay, don't worry, make sure it never happens again. Next night, went out again the next night. It was unbelievable. And there was a security guard at the front of the village. So you had to leave the village where you put your passport in, and only somebody with an accreditation can get into the Olympic Village. And we walked past this security guard and he starts shouting, and we're going on a night out again, the next night. And he starts shouting, Sam, what are you doing? Sam. And I'm looking back at him like, who the hell is this guy? I've never seen him. And everyone else in the team were like, don't you remember him? And I was like, no. He was like, he carried you into the Olympic Village and you threw up all over his suit. I was like, what? I did what? I couldn't believe it. Just kind of like smiled and laughed it off. We went on the rest of the night out, and then that behaviour continued for another 6 months once I got home. You know, I was doing the same thing. I had all these feelings still, and I was just drinking to make it all go away. And so that was the first thing, I think, that behaviour and that alcohol. And I think, you know, looking back now, I've seen that again. I've seen it in other athletes. And I always do try my best to like step in and just make sure they're okay and say, look, and there's people around them laughing and cheering them on, like, guys, like, this isn't okay, you know, like, you got to make sure that they're all right. This is like, we're athletes, like, this isn't alcohol and sport, they don't mix. They're not a good mix, you know, and kind of look at the root cause of the problem. But there was never any adults doing that. There was never any adults around me doing that, having those questions, like having those conversations, stepping in. Sam, are you okay? Are you all right? Are you handling the pressure and stuff? That never happened.